Maulio have eat a na Mauna. O Mauna here, O Mauna, O Walalei, O Halakala, Amekoa. Hey, no, how now I know we can wait a while. Na no night mayan eola enam eola kaha o Hawaii eola Hawaii. Ano ai mekavilina a ke aloha. Aloha. And welcome to our virtual talk story as we join you here from the Lani, from the porch of the Eva Parker Woods Cottage, here in this Vahipana of Kalahuipua'a, within the Okana of Waimea, in the Moku, the district of Kohala. We're sitting on the porch of the Eva Parker Woods Cottage. Something that we have done for over 23 years, as we would share stories, share music, share hula with an audience here. But as times have changed a bit, and as we move with the times, we want to share this event, this evening, formerly known as Twilight at Kalahuipua'a, with just a simple talk story with Ohana and dear friends. And this evening we are so fortunate to have two amazing people that we've known for many, many years, dear friends, and of whom we consider Ohana. And so I would like to introduce them at this time. We have Chad Ōnohi Paishon and his wife Pomai. And in Hawaiian style, we're going to offer them leis.
Aloha. Get them high out of the way. Turn it around.
And so in Hawaiian tradition, we offer our leis, our tokens of aloha.
Perfect.
And as our way of mahalo, to have them come all the way from up Mauka, from Upper Waimea, to come here to spend this time with us and just to share a bit about their lives, the things they do, the kuleana that they have. And so I'm going to hand this part over to them, to Brother Chad and to Pomai, to share one of their mele, which speaks of an amazing canoe, Makali'i.
Sail on together, come sail along with me. sail on the beautiful Makali, pride of all Hawaii. She's made for you and me. Proud men and women who sailed on to history. Imua Makali ha'aheo I kawa'a, ke one o Hawaii ua pono na hana nui. Imua Makali ha'aheo I kawa'a, ke one o Hawaii ua pono na hana nui. Guided by the ancient hands, with the moon and stars above, with the help of Keakua and faith to understand. So sing all Hawaii, come sing along with me. Sing for the beautiful Makali. Imua Makali ha'aheo I kawa'a, ke one o Hawaii ua pono na hana nui. Imua Makali ha'aheo I kawa'a, ke one o Hawaii ua pono na hana nui. Imua Makali, Imua Makali, Imua Makali.
What a beautiful song, and we have to mahalo Brother Omi for doing that
Omi
song.
de Jesus,
Yeah.
you know, who when Makali got built and sailed home on her first voyage in 1995, Brother Omi got on board Makali when we arrived into Hilo, and he sailed with us to Oahu for the homecoming for all of the canoes at that time, because that voyage was called Na Ohana Holo Moana. It was the first time that many voyaging canoes came together again. You know, what Hokulea had started years before, now we had other canoes now all sailing together in
Yes.
1995. So when Omi got aboard Makali'i, as we were sailing, when we left Hilo, we sailed to Molokai. Everyone got together there. We didn't know that Omi was riding on the on board.
Yeah.
So by the time we got to Oahu and we had the welcome in and everything, and we all gathered together that evening, he ended up playing this song.
The song was Paul.
The song was done.
Oh, well, that's amazing. But you know, ever since they called the 70s the Renaissance of Hawaii, and it was in that time that came the birth of Hokulea, the first of our great voyaging canoes, and which made its maiden voyage from Hawaii to Tahiti. And since then, it's made a number of voyages, many of which both of you have been on, and we were fortunate to be,
and you folks too.
Anna and myself as well.
Right.
And, have so many amazing and fun memories along the way in this voyage, the voyages that we've embarked on.
Right.
But I should probably ask, how did you get involved in this whole thing and been part of this
Oh, gosh.
Ohana Wa'a? Or
wanna
both
go
of you,
first,
I
Pomai?
should say.
Sean has a great story, so he should start.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I guess for me, because for all of us, right, when we grow up here, our kupuna are a big part of our lives, and so my growing up on Oahu, both of my grandmothers are always keen in telling me stories about how our people voyaged and came to these islands, and so that always intrigued me, because at the time growing up in Hawaii, there weren't any voyaging canoes yet. Hokulea wasn't built yet, and so to me, it was a great story. And because they knew I loved to be in the ocean, under the ocean, on the ocean, by the ocean, wherever ocean,
Yes.
I'm all good. So, those stories always intrigued me, and, I thought, wow, our people voyaged, they came on canoes. And when I was in the 3rd grade, I don't know how, myself and 4 of my other friends in the 3rd grade, we got picked to be a part of this storybook for one of our ohana that had moved home from Chicago and was creating children's books for mainland schools. And so me and my other 4 friends got to get out of school and go with this man up to Nu'uanu or to the parks, and he would take pictures of us, or he'd have a sketch pad and he'd be drawing us. Every once in a while, we'd go to his studio and he'd tell us, okay, stand like this, and we'd stay there, and he'd draw and he'd do all these sketches. But one day at his studio, I noticed that there was a picture on his wall of what looked like to me my grandmother's stories of a voyaging canoe. And it was a pencil drawing that was on his wall. And, whenever we got the chance to go to his studio, I always looked at that picture. Fast forward, when he was done with the project, he had agreed to pay us, and so our parents came to the studio when that day came, and he presented checks to our parents for the time that we were with him. And I told my dad, I started pointing at the picture. I said, I like the picture on the wall. And so my dad told him, mahalo for the check, but is it okay if my son rather have that picture that's on the wall? And he kind of looked at my dad. He looked at me. He said, that's just a pencil drawing. That's not. He said, well, that's what my son rather have. So he took it off the wall and he signed it and he gave it to me. I thought it was the greatest thing. Yes. I took it home and I put it on my wall at home. Because to me, now my grandmother's stories were real. Because he was someone that I didn't know, but I just got to meet, and he drew a picture of what my grandmother's told me about. So I said, my grandmother's stories must be real. Fast forward years later, there's this big write-up on Oahu in the newspaper of this voyaging canoe that was being launched at Hakipu'u at Kualoa. And I remember running to my dad and telling my dad, Dad, look. Remember that guy who did the picture when he was in 3rd grade? Look, he built the canoe. And that was Herb Connie.
That was Herb Connie that was doing.
Yeah, that was Herb Connie. So that's how I came to the canoe, was through Uncle Herb's picture, and from there, reconnecting again with Uncle Herb after we started sailing aboard Hokulea, and this.
Well, Uncle Herb is actually really Danny's Uncle Herb.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Part of the same family on my mom's side, which is the Mokchu side.
Oh, there you go.
And the Akioka side of the family. So that's all the Waipio farmers, the koi makers. And it was while I was working with Tommy Holmes in 1988, working on putting together the Hawaii Maritime Center, that I called Herb while I was working on the project. And we talked for hours on the phone and come to find out we're related.
Sweet.
So small world. But he was an amazing man, and one of the founders of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, and along with Tommy Holmes and Ben Finney, who was one of our professors at the university,
at the time.
who had these posters of the voyaging canoe and spoke about it. And this was back in like 73.
Early 70s,
In 73, before the first voyage. So, it's all, we all were touched in that way.
It's all connected,
And for Pomai, your connection.
For me, I think the story, my story is a little bit different from Chad's. I was actually born right before the canoe was launched. And so I don't believe my family at the time even knew that they would be involved. But Hokulea on her training mission sails after being launched on Oahu at Hakipu'u came to Kauai High. And when she was at Kauai High, two of my uncles, my dad's younger brothers, were actually working on Pu'ukohola. And because they were kama'aina and knew the lay of the land above the ocean and below the ocean, Hokulea was brought in to an area where wasn't the best place for land for setting anchor. And so one of my uncles came down and assisted them and put them in the right space for the days that they were going to be there. And literally that was a bite the hook moment, right? Because you had to lift the anchor, reset the anchor, and from then I think the ohana's been involved. From that time, both uncles and then eventually my dad would become crew members of Hokulea. Literally hooked, hook, line, and sinker. However you wanna, whichever way you wanna go. But so that's our initial introduction, I think. And then my dad's youngest brother, his brother right under him, Shorty Bertlemann, he ended up sailing from Hawaii to Tahiti in 1976. And being on that trip, talking about Mao and being able to learn with Mao, and then being on the canoe with all the other uncles now, was such a significant moment, I think, in his life. But because he went, it was significant for the rest of us. My ohana also comes from this aina, Waimea, and many of them were raised in Puako. And so very pili to that space. And so we're very Mauka people, but also have pilina to the kai and to the ocean. And so I think they were definitely surfers. And so really started to get our family involved in recognizing a balance of life force, I think, between aina and the aina specifically and makai. And since then, there's been growth and evolution for me, my siblings, and a bunch of our family members into sailing. And it's taken us, like you mentioned, we've been able to share a few places together. And so, just really grateful that because of that experience, I've been able to sail different canoes to different parts of the world, and just grateful for that experience.
And so your ohana, your family really has been involved from the onset, from the very beginning, from the first maiden voyage, Hawaii to Tahiti, and what started with the Hokulea, other projects came to life.
Yes.
The Makali'i, of which you just sang about, and the Hawaii Loa.
Yeah.
And then that project, the Maulawa project, of which was
back in 1991.
Yes, and a way to try to do a traditional way of going up to the forest to cut down the a koa tree, using the ko'i, the stone adzes, not metal adzes, but stone adzes, going through learning the ceremonies for the not only the cutting of the tree and blessing of the ko'i, the stone adzes, and then eventually working on the canoe down at Honanao and launching it. Ceremonies throughout.
What was really wonderful about that particular project was the way that the crew members were able to select the pohaku for their ko'i, and the ceremonies and protocols that accompanied that. It was really a revitalization of those protocols that had been dormant for so long. And some of the chicken skin stories that were a part of that. One real quick one that I remember was back in 91 when we were, and Uncle Clarence Medeiros was a part of all of this in many different ways. His family helped.
He was one of the kupuna involved with that Maulawa project.
Right, and we were several of us, our whole family, immediate family and others, were overnighting at Uncle Clarence's on our way to get to Keauhou volcano for the ceremonies the next morning. But in the wee hours of the morning, we all were awakened by this loud sound of like a trumpet.
It sounded like a screeching or the car coming.
But in that also, there was a screech. It sounded like someone had veered off the road, and where Uncle Clarence lives is on a curve.
Right.
So not unusual that we might encounter
that.
something like that. But what was intriguing to us, we all looked at time, it was like at 3-ish in the morning, and we kind of like settled back down for a little bit of time. But
that was after going down to the road just to check it.
Yeah, on the road in the dark with the flashlight, a kukuyelepo. And there was no evidence of any tire marks or vehicles or nothing. But we all heard, that sound. And but later, as we continued on and arrived at Keauhou, at the site where can you remember Dad?
Yeah.
And Uncle Tiger.
Yeah.
And we were kind of mentioning about what had been happening, what we experienced that morning, and it turned out where I believe it was your dad that had that had woken up like super early and blew the pool.
Yeah.
Exact same time that we heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were way on the other side. I mean,
in Honokua, which is South
on the other side of Keauhou.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
Other end of Keauhou.
And that Ahupua is very interesting because it's unlike the others in its shape.
Yeah.
It's Maukamakai, but most of them are pie-shaped up into from wide at the base of the ocean and then narrow it on the mountain. But this one, it spans up like a rainbow, and it goes up around Mauna Loa, between Hualalai, Mauna Loa. It's a very, it's almost like same path.
I think I think Maulawa, in my household, Maulawa really was like a motivational shift, I think, for our family. And one, I think, like you said, right, the Renaissance had happened, and then everybody was working towards some sort of identity. And so in our house, it really became like, wait, what? You're gonna go look for a log to build a canoe, okay? But no, we're gonna do this traditionally. And because of that, there were moments and opportunities where we're going to be moving backwards into our past to be able to go forward. And literally that happened. And so I think for us as kids, because we were kids, watching my dad and my uncles walk through this process, some days there were times when you just didn't understand what was happening, but other days like that, when they'd come home and sit around the table and start to explain what happened, or another part where one of my dad's oldest brother, he was gonna go up to go get the log, Uncle Glenn, and bring the log down, and encountered a few people walking on the road, and they looked like they had just come from seeing something that they probably shouldn't have seen, but just moved, right? Because the spaces and places were providing opportunity again for learning to happen that hadn't happened in such a long time, and so I think it brought on a whole new meaning of the kahea went out, the call went out, and then ultimately the call was answered. So,
and things during that time, and because I was still at work, here at Mauna Lani, we couldn't spend the whole time. So we go there, and I think the kids were still going to school, and I was still working. So we go back and forth. But I get a call late at night from Tiger, and sharing some of the stories and experiences, the dreams that they were having, things that they were seeing that were not, the usual.
Like you said, there were experiences of what I would call, say, myths of our past, that they were actually experiencing in real time today.
Right. Yeah, I can honestly say that Maulawa was such a beautiful gift, I think, to Hawaii. And Hawaii Loa, who really in a sense was her partner, right? Because the two of them were birthed from logs, and the Hawaii Loa from Alaska, right? And Maulawa from home here. So how beautiful, right? For us to be able to have been in a time and experience a time when that kind of transformation was happening too for people. I think what happened with those two canoes for me, was that, you know, we had built Hokulea, and she was this fiberglass canoe, which is a replica of canoes that our kupuna had traveled on. And then you have these two canoes who really helped us refine and strip away everything that potentially we couldn't see in ourselves as people, as a lahui. And so, it was quite amazing watching transformation in our intimate circles and family, and then the community start to explore what it meant then, and what it looked like to become again, you know. And I think the wooden canoes and their essence and their spirit really helped to do that for us.
Yes, and I think over the years, you know, between these projects like the Maulawa and the Voyagers, and of course navigation, you know, really sparked an interest not only here in Hawaii, but Pacific-wide, worldwide. And you know, here at Mauna Lani, we of course have always been fortunate to be in such an area here along the South Kohala coast of Kalahuipua'a, of which its past was known for fishing, ancient royal ponds. We have the canoe landing here, Kiawanui, with the halauwa'a, the canoe house here. But even as our hotel was brought back to life and went through a great renovation, you know, that area where I have my office down in an area once known as the atrium is now called the Halau. And the name that Anna, when we're coming up with appropriate Hawaiian names for parts of the hotel, that Halau was so appropriate in that the Halau was not only a place where canoes were kept and stored to be out of the sun, but it was a place where fishing supplies are also kept, and it was a learning center. It was an educational center where the kahuna kalaiwa'o, or the master canoe builder, would pass on his ike, his knowledge, to his haumana, to his student within the halau. And so even today, here at Mauna Lani, we have a canoe there that's over 100 years old, that was made in Miloli'i, an opelu type of single hulled outrigger canoe made out of single koa log. And then we have another canoe, a little smaller, but also an opelu type of canoe, but made much more recently right here in the halau that we have here. It was a 2-year project, of which we're so fortunate to have Ski, quite Kowski, or Ski for short, come down and twice a week with some of his friends and would work on the log that was kindly gifted from the Parker Ranch. And a log that came from Waipunalei.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and so that log was dropped off in the halau.
Sweet.
And twice a week we'd slowly work on that log, and Ski made ko'i, or adzes, not with stone but with metal heads, and slowly chip away. It was a 2-year project, but we had to stretch it out because it was a fresh log. Anciently, they would have hollowed out the log to what was called a ka'ele, turn it over, let it go through its process of drying for a year, and then bring that ka'ele down to the halau wa'a to complete and finish it before doing the ceremonies to launch it. So we had the opportunity to do all of that, to have the log brought here, to bless the halau, to hollow it out with almost 2,000 people that came through that halau, from hotel guests to school students,
Right.
to Uncle Kenny Brown, to my dad
Nice.
came down. People came down, and just shy of 2,000 people that put their mana, their spiritual energy into that log. And so at the end, before we blessed it, we had to choose a name, a proper name. And so Ski said, we should call it Laulima. Laulima in reference to many hands. 'cause there were
Multitude of
many
hands, yeah.
that touched
Beautiful.
that canoe, that helped to create that canoe and
Absolutely
put their mana in that canoe. So it was a wonderful and beautiful project that we have here. And so we have the Laulima in that
Nice.
halau right next to my desk.
Nice. Nice.
So so canoes and voyaging has really brought to life many things of our Hawaiian culture, and with that, of course, the language, the music, the hula, all connected
Right.
to this. Earlier we were speaking about some of the voyages that we participated on together, such as the voyage along the West Coast, and how fun it was, and just amazing experiences along the way, and very heavy experiences too, with big windstorms going
Off
outside
Cape Blanco.
Cape Blanco, the Washington coast. But I tell you what, that canoe held together and brought us back safely.
Yeah, she's amazing. She
Yeah.
really is so stable in the most inclement of weather conditions and
Right.
ocean conditions.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing to me. And we had a very amazing crew on that particular leg of the voyage. Captain Kimo Lyman, Captain Kavika Lyman, Captain Norman P.E.N.I.
That's the
We
crew,
had more
man.
captains
That is the
than we
crew.
had sailors. You
Yeah.
know, I was very novice, of course, but it was in that storm.
Yeah.
It was
So sure.
There was no fear because we had the best of the best
Right.
guiding us. On that.
It's interesting because the canoes become, they're always likened to a needle, sewing up the islands and whatnot. And really, if you think about it, they are, right? Because the eye of the needle can break, right? But the needle itself is still intact, and it still will continue to do its job. And I think the integrity of the canoes is really equivalent to what the spirit of the canoe actually is. And so when you talk about a cast crew of that makeup, Norman Pianai and Kimo Lyman and David Lyman, that's kind of amazing. Because it's because of them and the stories and the experiences that they've had that the rest of us are able to actually be comfortable on the ocean now.
One of the experiences on that particular leg of that voyage, and mahalo Chad, because you had to return back to Hawaii to tend to some family business, that spot opened up, and Captain Kimo Lyman invited me to take your spot. And that's how I got on board.
Good
but
job.
During that storm, when the waves were crashing over the bow, over the deck, and the forward, the damage that we'd sustained, that forward gaff, and 4 guys on the steering paddle, Kavika Lyman, Kimo Lyman, Norman P.E.N.I. and Danny. It took 4 of them to hold that steering paddle steady. That one main sweep. I was on the starboard paddle, but as the waves are crashing over us and the wind was howling with these high seas, Kavika Lyman is standing there. He's got one arm, elbow, in the crook of his the paddle in the crook of his elbow, and he's got his face up to the sky, to the heavens, and one arm up in the air. And he says, "Isn't this great? What an adventure." And, I'm looking over going like, "Yep."
I believe you.
And one of the wonderful things about that moment was such a sense of peace and tranquility of, wow, doesn't matter what the elements are throwing at us, we're going to be just fine.
We're going to be just fine.
And we had Billy on board too.
Billy Richards too. Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of it, right? Because like you said, like now we can come home and share those stories, right? Because for many of us, there's just few of us that get to stand on the deck of the canoe together and to experience these things, which creates this bond amongst us that are forever.
Right.
That we might not see each other for some time, but as soon as we do see each other, all those things come rushing back. So it really is. It's the opportunity again that we've had over these years to experience, whether we're building Maulawa or Hawaii Loa, or we get to stand on the deck of the canoe for whatever voyage, whatever time we have. Those experiences, when we come home, it's that side that when we come home with this different appreciation and that those values that we carry forevermore with us. Like you said, what a great experience, right?
What an adventure.
What an adventure.
Yeah, and you're right. And, there are, like you said, a limited number of people that can have that experience physically on the deck to sail together. And yet we are so grateful for all of the many family members that have been there as the kako'o, the support that enable us and allow us to have that amazing experience.
Exactly. I think that's one of the greatest things that, first it was trying to see if we can sail the canoe, like you said, learn about the navigation, but it's gone to that point to really realize that for us to do voyages, it takes our families, it takes our community, it takes our island.
Right.
And that's really the determining factor of whether we'll make it or not, And I think that's, to me, probably one of the greatest lessons that we've been fortunate to learn from voyaging again. That for the next ones that will take our place someday on the deck of the canoe, but that now we have these years to start to give back to our families and to our communities in this sense. All the very fortunate times we get to spend together.
And the times too when we were in Japan with that voyage, and I was not physically on the canoe, but I was part of the kako'o.
The movement, right?
Yeah.
And there was an awa ceremony that was held in Yokohama.
Yep.
And I can remember as I sat there and Kili'i looked at me and said, "Were you on this voyage? Were you on this canoe?" And at that point, there was a lot of emotion, and I said, I did not respond to him immediately, but in my mind, I remembered, and I was thinking of when it launched from not Miloli'i, but it was there at Kalikiko Bay, waiting for parts to set sail. That's a story of voyaging, waiting for parts. But what came to mind was, as we, in these times when we reflect back, it was, what rushed through my mind at that moment in time was I on this voyage? We were there to Pule, we were there to Oli before she set sail. And in my mind, I realized, I said, with every breath, we did our pule to pray that the winds would be kind and strong. With every moment in our bodies, every tear that we shed for hope, for safety.
Yeah,
that yes, were you on this voyage? Yes, every member that has been a part of these voyages, whether it's on the deck or around in different parts of the world, they are on that voyage.
Yeah, the canoe cannot go anywhere without the community and the families. You know, that's not even possible. And I think we've grown into understanding that. Also grown into the point where, you know, if you share, like you said, deck space, bunk space, and preparation space of provisions and getting the canoe ready to go, then you're ohana. You know, because there's an exchange of sweat equity, there is exchange sometimes of blood, depending on you know what the task was for the day.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears, and you know, like hula and like other practices. That's the relationship, right? That's the building of the relationship with Aina or with other ohana. It's the blood, sweat, and the tears, and it's the same thing. You can be lashing for 8 hours, and you guarantee all your sweat is mixed in with each other and into the kaula and into the aho.
Everyone's there in spirit.
Yeah,
Everyone's there in spirit.
So everybody's
True.
there. So true.
Yeah. You know, and how fortunate we were from the very beginning to have really a grandmaster of voyaging. You know, to have Papa Mao.
Yeah.
Who, you know, saw through this. It was really his life project for him, you know, and you know, over the many years, and then pass that knowledge on to you folks as navigators, as ho'okele, through the Po ceremony, which took place in Sarawak.
Right. In 2007,
Yes.
we home here. Again, our community built a canoe for Papa. That was named Alingano Maisu. And that was built here in Kauai High. Then, along with Hokulea, we sailed Alingano Maisu to Papa's home island to gift that to him in a way to say thank you for, like you said, for his ike, his wisdom to see, you know, so many years ahead. Yeah. And when we were getting there, as we were approaching, getting closer to Sarawak, Naino received a radio call from the island saying that Mao had wanted to induct these men into Po. And that he was going to do this ceremony on the island. Obviously, I mean, we all kind of are familiar with the story that Papa kind of broke tradition when he came outside of his home island and taught navigation. And so, you know, here's almost, you know, now in 2007, he's saying now he's going to give this navigation to these men who aren't from his home island. And, you know, at first he was like, you know, but then it was like, okay, this is what Papa wants to do, so we honor him. And when we got to Sarawak and we went through the ceremony, and as one of the Po, they were helping us to understand the ceremony. Lambert helped us really to understand that what Mao was giving us was the light. Yeah, the light of Kuleana, as Pomai said, the light of responsibility. So he was really now putting it to us to be responsible to carry on what he had shared with us. So that, as he would always say, you don't keep things like this, you make things like this, that you give it to the next one. So now it became our responsibility to carry on what he started. So, you know, when we realized that now we were responsible, then it was, okay. Now it's not just about having the great trip, but more so now it's about ensuring that this knowledge was going to continue past us. Because it wasn't about us. It was about the light that Papa had shared with all of us, and to ensure that it would continue past us.
Yeah.
Mao is such a beautiful spirit because he could be serious, he could be very direct, and then he was also so funny and kolohe, and he loved to have fun. And, you know, I think when I think about it over the years now, you think about all these uncles and aunties who sail the canoes and friends and now family. The canoes, like these people, have all their own personalities too, you know? It's really kind of neat watching them. And Makali'i certainly has a personality of her own as well, like Alingano Maisu. And all the canoes they're created differently. Their hull shape and designs are all different, given their landscape and the people who are helping to birth them into the aina, you know. And how ingenious is that, right? Can you imagine if all canoes were shaped the same? You know, we potentially only know certain and specific ways to sail, opposed to having all of these different vessels, different personalities, different traits, different characteristics. And so it's just really neat to see personality reflected in the vessels as well, just like those who are teachers. I cannot help but think about Mao and his smile, and when he was ready to dance, he loved to dance, you know.
He used to say, break the
Break
floor.
the floor.
Break the floor. Break the floor. When
You
he
know,
would dance.
boogie down,
Break the-
boogie down.
I remember when he would say, Canela, you come with me. We drink tuba. Oluba.
Yeah.
What is that? He said, you come my island. I will share with you at must be some strong drink.
Yeah, you come my Waikiki beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was. And that was the thing with Mao, right? That there was this song that he always liked when we sang this song for him. And whenever we would sing this song for him, he would always just sit and be really quiet. And, you know, he would reflect on a lot. You could tell he's just watching. But it was just a song that he always loved to do.
What song is that?
The song is called Heiau. And
My favorite.
you know, I used to think, you know, does he understand exactly what we're singing? You know, but I think he understood it because of his spirit.
Music
you know?
transcends all boundaries.
And just the music of it. And so, since we're talking about Papa, I figure I played this song for him. And
Yeah.
In honor of Papa Mao.
Papa Mao, Uncle Clarence, Papa Robert Lani, Halimakua, Uncle Parley,
Halimakua.
yeah, Uncle Tiger, Dad,
all those guys.
yeah, so many people.
Father, can you hear me now? I'm just one voice in the wind, where the lava meets the sea. Chills run up and down my spine. There's a vision in my mind of a place that's been before me. Hey, hey, lava stone, sacred ground. Hey, earth and sky, rain come. Father, let your tears fall down as I watch them hit the ground. There's a voice seem to be calling me. Children It's life upon the earth, a symbol of a soul in a soul. Hey, oh. Hey, oh. Love was stone, sacred ground. Hey, oh. Hey, oh. Earth and sky, rain come. Hey, oh. Hey, oh. Love a stone, sacred ground. Hey, oh. Hey, oh. Earth and sky, rain come. Earth and sky, rain come.
No, no, kukuna.
Ah,
What a beautiful song.
beautiful song.
Oh,
Mahalo.
boy. I can see why Papa Mao just it is a very moving, stirring song, and
Yeah.
whether you understand the words or not, you
Yeah.
know, just I think the vibes that it sends out,
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
energy.
That is my favorite
very
song that
powerful.
the two of you do as a duet.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. The image that stays with me all the time with Papa is that sitting with him in the canoe house, and you know, the first time that we had sailed there with Makali in 1999, and Pomai's dad Clay and myself, the rest of the crew were sat around us, and Mao was sitting right next to Clay and I, and he would just say, "Sing the song, sing the song," and you know, it was always a great thing to sing for him,
Mm.
and to at least that way, to me, was always a way of giving back to him.
And you know, since the early voyages to now, you know, there's still that strong movement
Yeah.
in voyaging, and you know, we had the worldwide voyage as
Yeah.
well, and you know, we have, you know, the hui that you know came through this, you know, the Nakalaiva, and we just had a gathering
did.
last week in Ho'ea, you know,
Yeah.
Alpha ceremony,
Right.
and which is another, you know, like you said, we don't always
Yeah.
have opportunities to get together, but when we do,
Oh,
Yeah.
it just brings back all these thoughts and memories, beautiful memories. of
Exactly.
people, places, of things that we did, things that we experienced
Mhm.
over time. And so that was, you know, I wish we could have stayed longer, but, you know, just that short time that we were there was really a beautiful moment. But, you know, in talking about Nakalaiva'a, you know, there's been, you know, efforts in fundraising. You know, there
Right.
was that
Right.
Maulawa
Yeah.
that gathering. I think of the other year, a few years ago, the Malama Makali'i,
Right.
one of our other canoes, and of course the Nakalaiva'a, which were the builders of these canoes, and so if there I know there's always continuous effort to fundraise, and so if somebody wanted to help, who can they get in touch with, or is there a website?
We do. We have a website, and that is nakalaiva'a.org. So please go by all means, nakalaiva'a.org. There's a donation site there. We have an online store set up there, so you can get makali'i gear. There's also a lot of information about what we're doing, and I think the website has some really good insight to some things that I think are a little bit different from what we've been doing so far in this setting of the va'a. Nakalaiva'a, I would say, has really helped Ohana Va'a, the consortium now of canoes, in creative ideas and in movements forward. And so I'll just introduce maybe one part of that you can find on the website, and then have ask Chad to share a little bit more. In the last 4 years now, actually 5 years, Nakalaiva'a has been on this movement to provision the canoes with foods that come specifically from our island. And so in June of 2019, Makali left Kauai High provisioned fully for 25 days with 4 meals a day plus snacks, fully provisioned from Hawaii Island. And so what that meant for us is that everything that we took with us and needed to be grown, then harvested and processed here on island. We couldn't take rice. We couldn't take mayonnaise. We couldn't take Tabasco because we never made it. We couldn't take shoyu because we never planted it. We never made it. One really quick story, and then I'll let Chad indulge. So because that was our charge, and because it was such a process for us to understand, we have a team that was really, really strong in making sure that we stayed to that. And so pepper. We're trying to find pepper. And in the last minute, a few people were like, let's just go ahead and get the pepper from here or there. And lo and behold, one of our Ohana members had family living in Pepe'ekeo, and they had pepper tree. And they actually harvested pepper, and we were able to take pepper. Another really cool example of that is we also worked with Mao's family in Kona, Angelina and Mike McCoy and their family on this project. And oil. How were we going to go ahead and fry the fish when it came on board? So 100 coconuts equals 4 quarts of oil. 100 coconuts equals 4 quarts of oil. And it was a 3-week process. But amazing, life-changing. So the Ohana of the Va'a now will say, we cannot go back. We cannot go back. Right, Chad?
Right. I mean, early on, part of the voyages, at different points we've tried, right, to provision the canoe, take our own traditional foods. And I remember one of the comments, Papa made a long time ago, you guys know Ma'a eating spoiled food.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And and so eventually, right, the main thing that was on the canoe were canned foods that we can find at any store here, that we can find on our shelves at home too. But then, as we started to look into this voyage that Pomai talked about, and thinking about Mao, and I remember one of the voyages I was on with him, and seeing Angelina bring him his food for the canoe, for the voyage. And I remember on the deck of the canoe with him and watching him, he wasn't eating what we would eat. He would go back into his eke that Angelina brought to him. That's what he would eat. And I asked him one time, I said, what is that? And he told me, what you like? I told him, yeah. And so he threw me this thing that basically, to me, it looked like a patele. It was wrapped just like a patele. And so I thought, oh, he's eating patele, until I opened it up. And he was watching me the whole time. And I opened it up. I was like, okay, that's not patele.
Yeah.
I said, but to me, in my mind, I was thinking, well, he's eating it, so it must be good. So I ate it. And he just watched me, and I was like, oh, this is good. And then I asked him, I said, Papa, what is this? And he tells me, mar. I tell him, what is mar? And he thought for a couple of seconds, and he said, ulu. I said, ulu?
Yes.
Told me, yeah, ulu. I said, how you make this? He said, when you go home Hawaii, ask Angelina. She show you how. then, you know, really taking it forward was that, okay, if Papa them are still on their islands, still creating their foods, that they're not relying on outside resources, that are on a tiny atoll like Sarawak, that they can still sustain 800 people on that island.
Yes.
So in this great modern day and age, can we even provision a canoe? Can we do it? So when we did this voyage up to Papana Mokuakea to Mokumana in June of 2019, when we left Kauai High, as Pomai said, we were totally provisioned from this island. From 10 schools that helped us, community organizations that grew the food, processed the food. And our crew never ate so well before.
Yeah.
I mean, the crew members couldn't believe that we were eating sometimes food that you'd only see at a luau.
Right.
But we were eating it every day on a canoe.
In fact, there was a great joke, huh?
It was.
Well, there was a great joke, right, of a body odor.
One of our crew members, of course, she had to be a wahine who noticed this.
Yes.
She said, she told me one day, she said, Cap. I said, yeah. She said, you know the thing I noticed? I was like, oh, the food is good. She said, yeah, but nobody has any body odor. I was like, what? She said, nobody has body odor. I was like,
you put clean food into your body, right? And I think that was the lesson of Mao.
Yeah.
You know, he was eating from his local food. That's how they would say it, right? He was eating his local food, irregardless of what we were eating, because he recognized that he was the instrument that needed to get us from point A to B, right? And because he needed to do that, he needed to be in his cleanest, purest form. And so I think the lesson, you know, we evolved into that lesson over time. But for her to say that, and for us to get a chuckle out of that, but then to realize, wait, you know, we actually rethreaded the needle in a different way, you know. And so, yeah, so the website and calling the office, 885-9500. That'll also enable people to get involved and to walao and talk story with us. And nakalaiva'a.org.
Great, nakalaiva'a.org.
.org.
Well, you know, as we get to the end of our talk story time and talking about that that ulu, I did have an opportunity to eat that in Yap with Mao's younger brother. Who said, you eat. And I said, okay, I know they opened the canned tuna, eating the can, and what is that? Looks like patella. They brought it out of the ground, was wrapped in, I think, banana leaves. And it was like a cylinder shape. They used to try it, and I tried it. I went, oh, this reminds me of sour poi. I said, oh, this is very good. And they said, really? I said, oh, yes, we love this. Hawaiians love sour poi.
Exactly.
And canned tuna. So that worked out. They said, oh, good, Hawaiian, good. They eat our food.
In Mangareva, they have these huge pits, stone pits, that they do. They make they prepare the ulu, and they let it sit for months, I think a year.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's very interesting to see how it's throughout the Pacific.
Well, you know, as we bring this wonderful afternoon to a beautiful close, and I wish we had more time to continue our stories and our music, but maybe another time we can do that.
For sure.
You know, and in between voyages, we're working on the
we're just up the road.
Yes.
We're right on the corner.
Yes.
Never far away.
Yes. But is there any particular song that we can, a good song to...
Okay. I think we'll finish with this song.
You know, and talking about relationships with Anna and Kanyala, again, songs contain information and they contain data and they provide you with insight and ike to a specific point in time. This song is Epi Limai, written by Uncle Larry Kimura, but put together by such an amazing family. We were living in Waikoloa at a time, and one evening, actually it wasn't an evening, it was at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got up and I told Chad, I said, I think we have to go check on Makali'i. And he said, what is that? I said, we gotta go check on Makali'i. So we got in the car at 2 o'clock in the morning, drove down to Kauai High to check on Makali'i, and my dad was there. Right before we got there though, just past the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel, this song came on. And so we sang it, and then it was done by the time we got into the gate. Got there again, like I said, and my dad was there, and he looked at the two of us and he said, "What are you guys doing here?" And we said, "What are you doing here?" So typical to my dad's nature, if you know him, he had 2 glasses ready, and proceeded to give Chad one of them. But in that, as we were just watching the canoe sit gently on the ocean, with no other reason to be there than to maybe be together, perhaps for that time, this song played again. And so this song for us is definitely one that is a connective chord to relationship, you know. And so to the two of you, and to Uncle P.E. for always having us come to this Aina, and to this Hale, for always welcoming us. Mahalo nui. Thank you.
Mahalo ya
Mahalo ya olua.
Oh, he avana o e kule o kapo po anu ho kahino vau sweetheart mine e pili mai ina o vau ike wahi o makana he makana ia ke aloha no na kau o vau sweetheart mine e pili mai no na kau o vau sweetheart mine e pili mai sweetheart mine e pili
Nui ka mahalo. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo.
Mahalo ya olua. Thank you for sharing this moment with us here at the Eva Parker Woods Cottage, here at Kalahui Pua'a, the home of our Mauna Lani Auberge Resort and Hotel. And we look forward to more times and more gatherings and more reminiscing. And of course, I know we'll be getting together on occasion with our Kohala Mountain Boys project under the Kohala Center. So many things, amazing things that we all come together.
Yeah, we all overlap, you know, as
Overlaps and
Ohana.
intertwined, yeah.
And Cheryl too, that's another cousin of Danny.
Yeah. Oh, Grace, yeah. In Kona. Nice.
Yes, another, on my mom's side again.
Beautiful,
The
beautiful.
Kauhane side.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we want to mahalo everyone who's tuned in and took this time to share with us here at the Eva Parker Woods Cottage, here at our virtual talk story. And we hope to continue this program as long as we can, and really look forward to time that we can get back to our twilight at Kalahui Pua'a and have our gatherings once again when everything is safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So we're gonna mahalo all of you out there, and please malama pono, malama kikino, take care of yourselves. Always be safe. Don't forget to wear your masks and social distancing.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Yes, wash your hands and all those good things.
Right.
Yeah. And so we can see you hopefully one day here.
Yeah.
Ikavaku pono.
Ikavaku pono when the
right.
time is right.
Jolene. Aloha.
So as we say in Hawaii, A hui ho kako until we meet again. Aloha.
Aloha. Ke akua pua hui ho no.
Alright.
Aloha.